We're gonna ignore the ugly trolley in the background, okay? Hey guys, what's up? It's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello. If you are coming back, thank you. Basically today, guys, we are going to be doing a trope recommendation video. I asked a bunch of you guys on my TikTok and my Instagram to send me your favorite tropes, and I thought I'd give either 1 or 2 recommendations based off of what you guys were yelling at me to recommend. I hate that trolley. I have to get rid of it, hey? It was too ugly. I think that's better. So I got a list of all the tropes that you guys commented on my posts in front of me. I've got a few recommendations for each, so let's just get right on into it. Now, the first one is a trope that I probably got asked about the most. Y'all must love this one, and it is enemies to lovers. We all love enemies to lovers, but I thought because a lot of y'all were yelling at me that I would give you a few different types of enemies to lovers. This first book is a true enemies to lovers. Like sometimes there is rivals to lovers, but this to me is an enemies to lovers, and it is Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. Now this is a dark romance, so please check the trigger warnings if you do plan on reading this. To give you a brief overview, this book follows Sawyer. She has just escaped from the United States because she steals people's identities. She's currently in Australia, and what she does is she steals the identities of the men who she sleeps with, if that makes sense. One day, she sleeps with this guy called Enzo Vital. He's actually... he finds out about it. They end up reconnecting on a beach one day. They end up on a boat. There's a storm, and they get shipwrecked. On this creepy island, there is a lone lighthouse, and the two of them are stuck together with a creepy old man who is not who he says he is. This book was so good, like I literally devoured it. H.D. Carlton is one of my favorite authors, and one of my favorite authors that I discovered last year. These two literally hate each other, and it's a true enemies to lovers. The next one I have is actually a fairy tale retelling, and it is Scarred by Emily McIntyre. Now this is a retelling, I would say, or an inspired retelling of The Lion King. This one here is basically about this young prince called Tristan. His brother Michael is in line for the throne. Now these two are obviously based off of Mufasa and Scar. Hence the name. And his brother is basically betrothed to this lady called Sarah. Tristan doesn't like her. They don't really get off on a good footing. Of course, we come to find out that this woman who is betrothed to his brother actually hates their whole family line and is trying to kill them all. So you can sort of guess this enemies to lovers angst when Tristan finds out who she really is. And the last one for this section is, of course, Fourth Wing. I cannot do an enemies to lovers tag without mentioning Fourth Wing. This is one of the best books that I read last year. This basically follows 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail. She's been training her whole life to be a part of the scribe quadrant in Basgaia. Is that what that's called? I hope that's how you say it. Basically, her mother forces her to join the Riders quadrant, which is the most deadly. Think of Divergent sort of vibes. You know, like the Dauntless. These are the Riders, right? And basically, the tagline of this book is like, a dragon without their rider is tragic. A rider without their dragon is dead. Like, that's the tagline of this. Anyways, basically, she's joined this squad. Everybody knows who her mother is. She's very, very high up in their society, and nobody hates her mother more than the head dude who is assigned to look after Violet's wing, leader of the Fourth Wing, Xaden Ryerson, and he can't stand her. Oh my god, guys, this is such a good enemies to lovers, and the payoff, chef's kiss. I love this book so much. The next trope I had a request for was mystery romance. Now, I don't know if this one necessarily falls under mystery romance, but I felt like it was definitely one when I was reading it. It is the Mind F series by St. Abbey. Again, please check your trigger warnings if you plan on reading this. Every time I talk about this book, I get goosebumps. This book is about Lana Myers. She's a serial unaliver. This story is basically about how she ends up falling in love with the FBI agent who is working on her case. This follows one of the best mysteries, and the whole time you're reading this, you're trying to figure out what actually happened to Maya to lead her to want to be this serial unaliver. And it literally had me on the edge of my seat. So I sped through this so fast. I love it so much. And this is also a really great reverse Grumpy Sunshine too. The next trope is Marriage of Convenience, which is one of my personal favorites, and I just eat this trope up every time. It's one of my absolute faves. The first one I talk about until the bloody cows come home, and it is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is book 2 in the Dreamland Billionaires series. These are 3 books that follow 3 billionaire brothers, and basically they are interconnected standalones, so you can read them separately. The premise of this series is that each of these billionaire brothers has been left a task by their grandfather in order to unlock a portion of their inheritance. So for Declan to unlock his portion of his inheritance, his grandfather basically says that he has to settle down and produce an heir in order to unlock this inheritance, because Declan's just sort of known and vocalized that he has no intention of ever doing that. So Declan gets to the point where he really needs to find somebody. And who offers to step forward other than his assistant, Iris? This is one of my favorite books ever. This is one of my favorite books ever. And the next one for this category is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. Okay, so basically this follows Aiden and Vanessa. Aiden is a very famous football player. He is originally from Canada and he is playing football in the States, and he's had his assistant Vanessa for over 2 years now, and basically he treats her terribly. She's like, why am I still in this job? I really want to just go and pursue my own thing. She ends up finding the courage to actually resign one day because she's like, I don't need to put up with this anymore. Lo and behold, Aiden comes knocking on her door and says, I really want you back. I need you back. And she says, I can't. And he goes, but it's for another reason. I need you to marry me. And that's all I'm going to give you because you need to read it. You need to read it. The next trope I have is Grumpy Sunshine. Now, I've had a lot, I do read a lot of Grumpy Sunshine, and I wanted to do something a little bit newer because a lot of the books I have for Grumpy Sunshine are older and you guys probably already know about them, and you might know about this one too, but this one has just stuck with me since I've read it. It is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This basically follows a grumpy NBA player. His name's Ryan Shea, and Indy, who is this like beautiful, colorful, book-loving flight attendant, and it's their romance. So basically this is the second book in the Windy City series, so they are interconnected standalones again. Our FMC Indy, she walks in on her partner cheating on her. This is basically a partner who she assumed was going to be the love of her life and they were going to get married and yada yada yada, and she has nowhere else to go. Indy has a best friend called Stevie, who is actually the protagonist of the first book, Mile High. Goes to Stevie and she's like, I'm gonna have to move back home, I can't afford to live out here. And Stevie goes, hold on, why don't you move in with my twin brother Ryan, who is incredibly famous and is an NBA player and doesn't have anyone living with him anyways. Ryan is not used to anybody living in his space. He doesn't know why he says yes. Indy and Ryan end up moving in together. Not only do we get roommates, we eventually get fake dating. I cannot recommend this book enough. The next trope I have is Reverse Grumpy Sunshine. Now, this is actually a new popular one of mine. I love when we have a golden retriever boy and a black cat girl. Like, it's one of my favorites. Reckless by Elsie Silver. Now, this is also an accidental pregnancy. Oh my gosh, you guys. So this is book 4 in the Chestnut Springs series, which is a small town cowboy romance. This book here follows Theo and Winter. So these two have a one-night stand. They've been acquainted before due to their connections through brothers, sisters, etc. They have a one-night stand, and then Winter ends up seeing double lines on a pregnancy test, and our story goes from there. Theo Silver is one of the most cinnamon roll golden retriever boyfriends I've ever read about, and this book had me sobbing. If you haven't read Chestnut Springs yet, please do yourselves a favor and do it. Now for one of my absolute favorite tropes, and it is forbidden romance, forbidden love. Oh my god, there's just something about this. It is. My legs are falling asleep. There is just something about forbidden romance that just does it for me. I'm only going to talk about one because I really think this one just sets the standard for all. It's Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It's book 2 in the Twisted series. Again, they are interconnected standalones, but this series follows a group of 4 best friends from college, and each book is like each of the girls' individual love story. So the second book is Reese and Bridget. So Bridget is a modern day princess and Reese is her body God. Basically, Bridget's brother abdicates like a few months before he's supposed to be sworn in as king, and Bridget Girl, why can't I speak today? Bridget has to basically learn the ropes and give up her freedom in a matter of months, and she creates a bucket list of things that she wants to do before she becomes queen, and who better to help her out with that than her sexy ex-military bodyguard, Reese Larson. This is one of my favorite books ever. Like, seriously, if you take any recommendation from this video, it's this one. I'm so serious. The next recommendation I have for you is Forced Proximity, another really, really good one. And I think Forced Proximity is one that you can either get really right or like it feels really super drawn out and like I can't stand this anymore type of vibes. But the one I'm going to recommend for you is Flawless by Elsie Silver, which is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series. This book follows Rhett and Summer. So Rhett is a bad boy bull rider. Basically, he has this absolute vendetta against milk. He hates milk. And for some reason, he has a milk sponsorship, even though he can't stand it. A PR stunt goes really, really wrong. He ends up all over the tabloids, and his manager basically says, like, mate, you got to pull your head in and stop doing this. So I'm going to send you a babysitter, and she's going to live with you. Her name's Summer, and she's also my daughter. This book is funny, sexy, there's found family. This is seriously one of the best series ever. The next trope I have is Brother's Best Friend. Again, another one that I've read a lot about, but there's one that I just always think about that nobody talks about, and it is Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. Now, I think this is the first book in the Tools of Enragement series. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this book is so fun and just really like silly, but also really spicy. Like, I love it. So this follows Georgie and Travis. Now, Travis here is Georgie's brother's best friend. He's also a famous baseball player. And Georgie is a kids party entertainer, and basically she sort of enlists his help in order to help fix up her house, and it goes from there. This is such a great story, and the spice is insane. Like, if you guys have read this, I think about that scene on the baseball field all the time. Next, I have Friends to Lovers. Again, another one that I had a lot of options for, but I actually think this story that I'm about to show you is the most beautiful depiction of friends to lovers I've ever read. Just get your tissues ready because you will need them, and it is 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. Now, I can't give too much of this plot away without, I guess, spoiling the story, but I'll give you the basic summary. So this follows Poppy and Rune. These two meet as children when Rune moves from Norway to the... I need to reread this book because I'm unwell. Rune moves from Norway to the United States. He meets Poppy. They are next door neighbors and they are instant best friends. As they get a little bit older, unfortunately, Rune and his family have to go back to Norway for his father's work, and they're split apart. When they do come back to the States, both Poppy and Rune are not the same, and they have new secrets. This is a really tricky one for me because I would say if you do have triggers, I would look at them before reading this book. If you do not have triggers, I would go into it blind because I think it is so much more impactful. This book also really just like drones home how important it is to value your life and to live every single day. This book messed me up. The next one I have is Fake Dating. Now, this was hard because I really didn't want to repeat books when I was doing this recommendation because a lot of the books that I read do have the fake dating trope in them, but this one stuck out to me the most. It's Twisted Lies by Anna Huang, which is book 4 in the Twisted series. This follows Christian and Stella. So Stella is an up-and-coming social media personality. She's like a fashion blogger. She's really, really passionate about it, and she's really been struggling to crack like the 1 million followers. She's been trying for the past few years, and she's just not understanding why she's not cracking that following, you know? And basically her manager sort of says to her, like, if you had a boyfriend, like literally you would straight away, you would just be the it couple, like you would just flourish, and I reckon you'd crack the 1 million. Stella actually lives in an apartment complex owned by one of the sexiest billionaires, Christian Harper. Throughout all this, Stella ends up blurting out her dilemma, and he says, I'll fake date you. Why the hell not? This is great. I gave this book 4.75 stars. It's a really good fake dating and slow burn. Guy falls first, so good. The next one is probably my favorite trope ever, and it is single parent. And I do read a lot of these books, but nothing will ever touch the one I'm about to show you because when I think about this book, I cry. Heartless by Elsie Silver. book 2 in Chestnut Springs. If you haven't already figured it out, I love Chestnut Springs because literally there is every single trope across this whole series. This book here follows Cade Eaton. He is a grumpy single dad cowboy. Basically, he is trying to find a babysitter for his little boy Luke over the summer just so he can get some more work done because he's really struggling to do so whilst, you know, being a single dad. His brother's fiance actually recommends her best friend Willa. And she says, you know, Willa loves kids. She's worked with kids before. She is a perfect girl for the job. Basically, Willa has never, ever worked a day in her life with kids and has no idea what she's doing. But Cade is instantly fixated by her from the moment he sees her. He actually meets her before she goes up for the job. And when you read the book, you will find out why, and it is one of the best meet cutes I've ever read. This book holds such an incredibly special spot in my heart. It makes me cry. Like, I was book journaling this the other day and I was just in hysterics. Like, it is so gorgeous. One of my favorite books, and it was my second favorite book of last year. The next trope I have is soulmates. Now, this was really hard, but also not, because these two series came to mind straight away. These two couples are the ones that I think encapsulate what it means to be soulmates. The first series I'll talk about is Heartstopper. This is one of my favorite things in the entire world. You can probably see the leaves behind me. This is such a beautiful, beautiful friends to lovers story. Basically, these graphic novels follow Nick and Charlie. They meet one day when they are sat next to each other in their form group at school, and they instantly become best friends. Charlie is a quietly confident year 10 boy, and Nick is a very popular rugby lad from year 11, and their friendship turns into this beautiful story of self-discovery and love and friendship and found family. They are genuinely soulmates, and there is a beautiful quote that Alice, the author, has written for them, and it is, "I'd like to think we'd find each other in any universe." And to me, that's soulmates, baby. That's soulmates. Now, the final recommendation that I have for this trope is actually a duet. I have just finished book 2. I will not be commenting on it, just in solidarity of the strikes that are currently happening, but I will recommend the series without, I guess, giving too much on the second book. It is the Letters of Enchantment duet by Rebecca Ross. Now, to give you a brief overview of this story, it follows Roman and Iris. They are competing journalists at this same newspaper. They have this enemies to lovers dynamic, and they are competing for the same position at their work. Now, the thing that makes this rivalry even better is that these two actually have two very special typewriters that are magically linked to one another, and they have unknowingly been sending letters to each other for years under pen pal names. This is one of the most beautiful love stories I have ever read. I won't comment on the plot and what I thought of it, but the love story in this duet will go down as one of my favorites. It is true solidarity that there is such a thing as soulmates out there. That's it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video and for jumping back onto my channel again. I'll be doing a part 2 if you want to throw some other tropes in the comments. I obviously didn't cover every single trope today, but if you want to see a part 2, let me know. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.